My husband accused me of financial infidelity because I manage my money better than him and save up for my fun activities, while he blows all of his mindlessly and never saves, and since that's unfair, I'm not allowed to save my money anymore and any extra will go to our joint account to be split between us. Posted by you/Lady Savings. My husband, 33M, and I, 33F, have been married for 10 years and have been together since college. Since the beginning, we have made financial security a priority and have been able to achieve that, albeit with some good luck along the way. We both have good jobs, paying close to $200,000 each. Our student loans were paid off within a few years. We both went to state schools with some scholarships, so we didn't have a lot of debt to begin with. We live in a house I inherited from my grandmother, no mortgage, and we don't have any credit card debt. We max out our 401ks and currently have 18 months of expenses in our emergency fund and are still adding to it. Our cars are both paid off and should be good for another 5+ years, and we don't have any credit card debt. We manage our finances in a hybrid manner, joint accounts for bills and savings, and separate accounts for our fun money. We each get a pretty generous monthly allotment. The fun money is strictly for our individual expenses, hobbies, clothes, outings with friends, etc., and not for things like date nights, vacations, or larger joint purchases like household appliances and repairs, which come out of our joint account. We also agreed that if either of us gets any bonuses or has any side hustle income, those will go into our individual fun money accounts, unless the funds are needed for a larger expense such as a major home repair. In terms of the fun money, my husband is much more of a spender than I am due to expensive hobbies, in particular, golf and collecting sports memorabilia, and he's also more into designer clothes, which is fine. It's his fun money. On the other hand, my hobbies are a lot less expensive: running/working out, reading, baking. In general, I'm more introverted, and a great time for me is tea with a friend at one of our homes with homemade pastries. I have also been getting back into gaming lately after setting it aside for much of the past decade while building my career. After realizing I had more than enough in my fun money account, I decided to overhaul my gaming setup and got myself a new PC, desk, and gaming chair, total cost of about $5,000. However, upon hearing about the purchase, my husband is furious. He says he had no idea I had saved so much money and that I should have consulted him before spending $5,000. I asked what difference it made if it was my own accrued fun money and not our joint funds, and he insisted that my accumulating this amount without telling him was a form of financial infidelity. He says he lost trust in me and doesn't know what else I might be hiding. He is demanding that I return the items I purchased and deposit most of the funds into our joint account. He wants to make a new rule that fun money accounts can't accumulate more than $2,000 and that any excess goes back to the joint account, a rule that would obviously favor him as a person who spends most of his allotment each month instead of saving up for anything bigger. I feel like I am being punished for being more of a day-to-day saver than a spender. It wouldn't occur to me to demand to know how much my husband has in his fun money account or to try to micromanage what he spends it on. I wasn't hiding anything deliberately. He never asked about it until after I made the purchases. Still, maybe I should have been more transparent about my plans. So, am I the jerk? Miscellaneous info: my husband and I each have our own office/hobby room in the house, so it's not like the gaming setup was going in a space he uses. I don't usually game when my husband is home unless he's already busy doing something else. My biggest block of gaming time is typically when he's off playing golf. Also, I run 40 to 50 miles a week, so it's not like I am generally sedentary. I can't think of a good reason why he would object to me gaming or having a nice gaming setup in my own space in the house. Top/relevant comments. Commenter: not the jerk. He sounds super controlling and greedy. My wife and I manage our finances in a similar way. She spends her money on whatever she wants, and I blow mine on outdoor stuff and video games. We have joint checking and savings for household expenses, kids, vacations, etc. I'd sit him down and tell him that how he chooses to spend his own money is his business, and how you spend yours is your business. He agreed to this arrangement and doesn't get to change the rules just because he chooses to manage his money differently than you. You aren't going to return anything, because he is acting like a spoiled manchild who didn't get a new toy when you did. Ops response: I actually had a lot more than $5,000 saved. We have had this arrangement for a few years, and I typically only spend about $500 of my allotted $1,500 per month. Maybe a bit more some months if I need to replace my running shoes, buy other clothes, or have any outings with friends planned, like concerts, but in that range. Commenter 2. So, if you were sick for a few weeks and didn't spend any fun money, by the next month it would go over his $2,000 limit, and he would get $1,000 of your fun money as punishment for you not spending it all right away? The over amount is literally less than 2 months' worth. That is insane. The fact that he has never had more than $2,000 in his fun account shows he is stupid with money and spends it constantly. He is being greedy and throwing around words like infidelity to try to corner you into feeling like the bad guy. Commenter 3. It's funny that he's accusing you of financial infidelity when he's trying to manipulate you into handing over money you saved. This is a blatant money grab. Ops response. Yes, it does feel like he is trying to change the rules and make me feel guilty about not spending all my extra money right away. Honestly, this is one of the main reasons I thought separate discretionary accounts was a good idea. Ironically, I thought it would prevent arguments like this about what we should be spending or saving. Commenter 4. I wouldn't do anything drastic, but I'd have a conversation with him about how you don't question how he spends his fun money, and how he should give you the same respect. There has to be something else going on, as you guys seem to be doing pretty well in the money department. Is he worried he's going to be laid off or something? Ops response. That's a good idea to discuss what he might be worried about. Of course, nothing is 100% certain in this economy, but our jobs both seem very stable. And again, we have enough saved to last at least a year and a half, even if we both drop down to zero income. Update 8 days later. My first post about a week ago was here. My husband finally calmed down enough to have a conversation with me. As many others who provided comments suggested, it wasn't really about the money, but a window into larger issues in our relationship. Essentially, my husband has been feeling increasingly unhappy with me for a while, for the following reasons. In general, he feels that he's a lot more committed to his career development than I am to mine. It's true that although we currently have about the same income, the ceiling for his field, finance, is a lot higher than the one for mine, tech/software development. He's currently in an executive training program, and I'm decidedly not. He's feeling resentful that he's having to work long hours in a high-pressure environment, while I get to work primarily at home doing something that is fun and fairly easy for me, and I'm not stretching myself to do more. He's concerned that, over time, these resentments are going to build and that I'm not going to end up pulling my weight financially if he takes huge leaps in his career and I don't. He remarked that, since getting back into gaming a few months ago, I have been putting a bit less effort into cooking. I do nearly all the cooking because I work at home and have an easier schedule. It's true that I have been fixing simpler meals, like grilled chicken salads or chili with cornbread, instead of elaborate meals with fussier foods and several sides. He has also noticed that I haven't been doing the elaborate table settings I used to, with flowers on the table, fancy placemats, etc. Honestly, I didn't realize he noticed or cared about this, but apparently he does. Acts of service are one of his main love languages, so overall he's feeling a little neglected because of this. He also feels I'm not putting enough effort into my appearance. Not in terms of weight or body, as I'm a long-distance runner and slim, but in terms of things like clothes and hair. It's true that I've never paid much attention to these things. Given that I work at home in tech, the standard for appearances is extremely low, and I far exceed that. I tend to buy simple, practical clothes at places like Target and Walmart, don't wear much makeup, and keep my hair in a simple ponytail. I do glam up a lot more for date nights and other dressy occasions, but most days he comes home from work to find me in a t-shirt and yoga pants with no makeup, and he wants me to make more of an effort. The bottom line is that, because of all these things, he's starting to notice other women. He says he hasn't cheated, he's just noticing other people because he's regularly disappointed in me. In particular, given that he works in finance, there are a good number of very career-oriented, type A women who manage to have fantastic bodies, be effortlessly polished and glam, and have more interesting hobbies. He also says he feels horrible about all this because he knows I am a good person and that he's being judgmental. It's not so much that I've changed, but that his own goals and expectations have changed in the past couple of years. The financial infidelity part came into it because he feels I'm not really investing in myself and our relationship, thus cheating on our future, in a sense. He also says he loves me enough to be honest. I do believe he isn't trying to be hurtful. I really had to drag all this out of him. He says he doesn't want us to drift apart further, that he doesn't want to be angry and resentful, and he knows he is asking for a lot. I know that many on this sub might say I should just tell him to take a hike and call my lawyer, but we've been married for 10 years, have invested a lot in the relationship, and I want to see if the marriage can be saved. So, a couple of things. First, we did make an appointment with a marriage counselor and start next week. Also, I'm going to try to do at least some of the above. I'm not sure about making myself be more professionally ambitious when I'm already happy with my work-life balance and we're already financially very comfortable, but I can at least try doing the other things, like returning to spending more time on cooking and decor, and fixing myself up a bit when he's on his way home from work, now that I know they are important to him. I also know that, in the end, I may feel like I am just tiptoeing around and contorting myself to please him, but it won't cost me much, certainly much less than a divorce, to try for a month or two and then see how we both feel. And I know I would always regret it if I didn't try. So, maybe not the update that you were expecting or hoping for, but that's where things are. If folks continue to be interested, I can update further once we have started marriage counseling and once I can feel out how the changes are going. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Love the way he put all the weight on you. What is he bringing to the table? Maybe if he sent you some flowers regularly, they'd be on the dinner table. Mr. Finance has drunk the Kool-Aid. Got a feeling in another 10 years you won't be able to stand him. He now wants an accessory wife. You're worth much more than that, and making the same damn money. At the end of this crisis, I hope you know your worth. Good luck, and remember who you are. Op adds an edit to her post. I need to call it a night, but once again, thank you to everyone for your responses. They were really eye-opening and helped me to see that I do deserve better than the way I am being treated, and that the expectations my husband is laying out for me are unfair and unrealistic, especially as he isn't doing anything at all to make it easier for me to meet them or to show me he appreciates my efforts and everything I do bring to the table. I am indeed conditioned to be very people-pleasing, and that is impacting what I think is reasonable here. I have a lot to think about, such as what do I really want here? What is going to make me happy, especially if I have to keep making myself smaller, metaphorically speaking, and contorting myself to please my husband? Do I really want to be in a marriage under those conditions? I think I'm really selling myself short if I just agree to most of what he demands. Still going to go to the marriage counseling appointment, but I think I will wait to make any other changes until we can at least get some professional input. Second update 1 week later. Hi all, I have an additional, and probably not very surprising, update to my saga. The more I thought about it, the more his requests, demands really, were sitting poorly with me. I decided to try a little experiment over the weekend to see what would happen if I tried to meet some of his demands. Not because I actually thought they were reasonable, but because I increasingly had the sense that the goalposts would just keep moving, and that I was playing a losing game. Saturday morning, I went to the salon for a glow-up, haircut, fresh highlights, mani/pedi, then went to the farmer's market to pick up fresh flowers for our table and assorted other gourmet ingredients. Saturday is usually our date night out, but I suggested we stay in so I could make us a special dinner, steakhouse style, lobster bisque, bread basket with several types of rolls and savory muffins made from scratch, crab stuffed mushrooms, filet mignon, au gratin potatoes, and white chocolate mousse topped with raspberries. I wore a lavender, his favorite color on me, sheath dress and high heels, and did my hair and makeup. For all that, I got a lukewarm thanks, it was tasty and a kiss on the cheek. Of course, I did all the serving and cleanup. Sunday we usually go out, but he suggested I make us brunch at home. So I made French press coffee, mimosas with fresh squeezed orange juice, Belgian waffles with a bananas Foster topping, eggs scrambled with parmesan and fresh herbs from our garden, roasted fingerling potatoes, and maple glazed bacon. I wore a blue sleeveless sundress, witch sandals, and again did my hair and makeup. Again, I got a thanks, it's good and no help with serving or cleanup. Afterward, I asked if this is what he had in mind when he critiqued me before. He said that it was a start, but that I was acting very entitled for wanting credit for basic adulting. He then dropped a bomb. He said he was being so hard on me because he had realized lately that I had a lot to make up for due to being a low-value woman. I asked what on earth he meant by that, and he said it was because I wasn't a virgin when we met. What? Keep in mind, we started dating at 21. Neither of us claimed to be virgins or stated that as an expectation. Except for very religious people, neither of us is. I don't think most 21-year-old college students are virgins. I was upfront with him then that I had had 2 previous partners, my high school boyfriend, we went our separate ways when we went to different colleges in different parts of the country, and another boyfriend I had my first year of college. And that's it. Both committed relationships, nothing casual. He went on to say that because of my low value, I was going to need to be making it up to him for the rest of my life. That I didn't deserve monogamy or equal treatment, and that I was lucky anyone at all wanted to marry me. And that he's connected with someone from work, so if I wanted to keep him, I had better step up. I told him it didn't sound like there was anything to keep if he no longer loved me, or even liked or respected me. I told him to leave, and he said he would gladly go to his girlfriend's place. I know so many people here insisted he was having an affair and I just didn't want to see it, that his complaints were really all part of a campaign to distance himself from me. I feel so foolish for thinking he was just going through a stressful time at work, or that he genuinely wanted to work on our marriage. Anyway, I have taken the week off from work to get my head together. I have an appointment with a lawyer tomorrow. I canceled the marriage counseling appointment, but got a referral to an individual therapist who can do an intake session with me later in the week. He and the girlfriend, apparently, are coming this evening to get more of his clothes and things, so I have to brace myself for that. Also, please be assured I do not think I am low value in any way. I let my husband make me think less of myself on some levels for a short time, but now I truly see it was a him problem. Obviously, we don't share the same goals and values, and he has become someone I don't recognize. I know the divorce won't be fun or easy, but I will be okay. Thank you all for helping me see that I was being played before I wasted too much more time in a marriage that was already over. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Holy crap, I knew he was a jerk, but to this level? Low value woman? God, not the Andrew Tate phrasing, and him expecting everyone to be a virgin is such a weird thing. The good thing is that you got rid of that parasite, and you'll be better off without him. I'm happy you're moving forward and not letting it eat you. Ops response. Yes, it seems like he fell down a toxic masculinity hole at some point fairly recently. Retroactively punishing me for not being a virgin at the outset, after a 12-year relationship including 10 years of marriage, is just completely over the top. I even said, so this person you connected with at work is actually a virgin? Well, she was, he said, with a smirk. So, virgin or not, someone who would sleep with a married colleague is higher value than me? Unless he lied about his marital status or situation, which I wouldn't put past him. Commenter. She was what? Is that like a trophy for him? That's so freaking weird, honestly. I feel like he's really insecure about himself and didn't like knowing you were making the same as him without having to deal with the stress of being such a cuck. I give it like 5 years until he realizes how much he's missing out on, and he's going to beg you to come back to him. Do not. Ops response. Yes, apparently, in his new way of thinking, he deserves a woman who has not had any previous partners, and it's the ultimate badge of honor to score a virgin. Commenter 2. Good for you for recognizing that what he was saying had nothing to do with you and everything to do with him wanting to end your marriage. What is wrong with people, that they can't just say, I want a divorce? Anyway, I'm so sorry it ended like this. Stay strong. Ops response. Yeah, I really wish he would have just said he fell in love with someone else and wanted a divorce. It would have hurt, but I know that people can just grow in different directions, especially after marrying young. At least this way, he has successfully made me not even really hate him. He's not even worthy of such strong emotions, but I feel sorry for him and am glad that we're over. Third update 2 days later. Hi all, I wasn't going to post another update, at least not this soon, but I've gotten dozens of DMs and messages asking if I'm okay and how things are going, so this is specifically in response to those who were checking in on me. He was supposed to come get his stuff on Tuesday evening, a couple of days ago, but told me at the last minute he couldn't because Amy, his girlfriend, wasn't feeling well. Some people called it in the comments, but yes, she's pregnant apparently. He told me this over text, so I have proof of the affair in writing now. It's not just his word against mine. Anyway, I didn't want him to keep jerking me around on the schedule for whatever reason, so I told him I'd pack his stuff for him and arrange for movers. I think it's better that way. I really didn't want him or them in the house. I had already arranged for a friend to come over on Tuesday when he and Amy were supposed to come by, so the two of us spent the evening packing his clothes and other personal effects. The movers came yesterday and got the boxes and the furniture items he wanted. He didn't want much, just the stuff from his home office and his dresser, as apparently Amy's apartment is small. I provided a detailed inventory and photos of everything, which he approved, so he can't say that I broke or otherwise ruined his stuff. After that, yesterday I went to the clinic to get STD tests. I won't have the results for a week or so, but thankfully I haven't had any symptoms. I also met with my lawyer, who said I had a good case for grounds of adultery and mental cruelty if I want or need to go that route. At a minimum, it's leverage to get him to settle quickly and quietly. I also locked down all the finances within the parameters provided by the lawyer so that he can't empty our joint funds or take anything that belongs to me, changed account beneficiaries, and all that fun stuff. I changed the locks to the house too. I decided to take the advice of some of the commenters and am getting rid of the bed and other bedroom furniture I shared with him. I'm donating it, someone is coming this afternoon to haul it all off, and I'm going to completely redecorate the bedroom to my own taste. That will take a bit, so I'm staying in one of the guest rooms in the meantime. I'm also taking a spa weekend away, leaving tomorrow morning and coming back Sunday night, just to get a change of scenery before I have to go back to work next week. And yes, even after buying the gaming setup, I have plenty of fun money left in my account to afford my lawyer's retainer and redoing the bedroom, as well as my getaway, with plenty left over. Here's to frugality when it counts. Those are the main updates for the moment. I'm doing better than expected, I think, and realizing more day by day that it really wasn't a good marriage, at least not for the last couple of years, when he started expecting me to do everything around the house and all the other emotional labor of running our lives outside of work, with no help and little to no gratitude. Amy sure is going to have her hands full. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. A baby is such a big stressor for any relationship. Before long, they will have to manage living together instead of just having a nice little work romance, in a small apartment, in addition to their demanding careers, a divorce, and a newborn keeping them up at night needing attention over work or romance. Sounds as if he's going to be doing a lot of adulting himself very soon. Op's response. Also, he was hardcore child-free before. I didn't want kids either, but he was especially militant about it. I mean, maybe he changed his mind, but it doesn't seem like this was exactly a planned pregnancy. Plus, he can't even be bothered to put his own laundry in the hamper or put a dish in the dishwasher, so how is he going to deal with an infant? Anyway, not really my problem, and I guess he'll figure it out or not. Commenter 2. She's going to have some big shoes to fill. I bet she won't be a domestic goddess, given that she has an MBA and is career-driven. Plus, she's pregnant. Babies take a lot of energy. I suspect he won't have that pristine home to come home to, and he's in for a dose of reality when he has to pay rent or a mortgage. He's going to have to handle his own budget now. We'll see who is low value then. Glad you're doing well. Enjoy your spa weekend. Op's response. Right. I mean, if she is in the executive training program with him, I assume she also makes $200,000. But even with $400,000 between the two of them, it's not going to stretch as far as one might think if they have to pay for a bigger apartment or mortgage in our high cost of living area, daycare for an infant, or probably a nanny, given the long working hours required in finance, 2 high-end professional wardrobes, etc. Not to mention saving for college. I assume they will want private schools. The list goes on. Not going to be a lot of money, or time, for golf for the foreseeable future. Commenter 3. Up, you are doing awesome. Out of curiosity, how did he react when you did not even bother to fight for him? I like to think his massive ego was bruised by that. Op's response. I believe it was. I think a part of him did want me to cry, scream, beg, or have some sort of outsized reaction, just to bolster his own high opinion of himself, that he's some grand prize. But instead, I calmly and rather coldly told him to leave, without yelling or cursing. I did cry later that day, but not for him to witness, and probably less than you might think under the circumstances. Op adds an edit to her post. Once again, I cannot thank everyone here enough. I need to get ready for my spa weekend away, so apologies in advance if I have not responded to your comment or DM, but I am really grateful for all the support and encouragement. Hopefully there won't be any more notable updates for a while. I really just want a smooth and easy divorce and to get on with my life, so please keep your fingers crossed for me. Fourth update 1 month later. Not sure if folks remember, but I had a series of posts earlier in the summer, actual links in my profile. I'm updating again here because a lot of kind people have been checking in with well wishes and to see how I'm holding up. Sorry for not updating sooner, but as soon as I got back from the spa weekend I mentioned in my last update, I dove into working with my attorney on the divorce settlement and didn't think it wise to put my business on the internet, however anonymously, with the legal issues up in the air. The good news is that we were able to come to an agreement pretty quickly, and everything is now executed, just waiting for the court date, which could take another couple of months, but my lawyer says the agreement is airtight. It wasn't quite as favorable as most of you lovely folks probably would have wanted for me, but I was highly motivated to get it done fast. I did get everything that really mattered to me. First, the house I inherited from my grandmother is 100% mine, along with all the furnishings and other effects in the house. My own retirement accounts and my fund money account are all mine as well. Otherwise, I did have to give him 75% of the other cash assets. Although he wasn't on the title for the house, he did contribute substantially to the large renovation we did, as well as to upkeep since then, and the house appreciated very substantially in the years since we moved in. It's fine, as I still have plenty of money, especially since I'm quite frugal most of the time and can rebuild cash savings quickly. Our agreement also states that neither of us has a claim on each other's past, present, or future earnings. So in case something happens and he loses his job before the court date, I won't be liable for any alimony. This is actually overall a very good deal for me and gives me a lot of security. In case anyone is wondering how we got this done so quickly, our state allows divorce on mutual consent grounds, which basically allows for a quick divorce without a legal separation period if the parties come to an agreement about all the finances and assets. Given that Amy is pregnant, my soon-to-be ex, let's call him Joe, yes, like the psychopath in the show was also very motivated to not drag this out. Now for the real dirt of this update. Last weekend, shortly after all our papers were signed, Amy reached out to me. She asked if we could meet and talk. Perhaps I should have declined, but I will admit I was curious about the 24-year-old prodigy and until recently a virgin person who was Joe's affair partner, so I agreed to meet her for lunch. So, the first thing is, Amy is very pregnant, like third trimester. She confirmed she is due in mid-October, which means the affair has been going on a whole lot longer than Joe let on. Whatever, it's water under the bridge as the divorce is almost final. However, after some polite but chilly pleasantries, she asked me when I'm going to be moving out of the house. Because surely Joe has been patient enough with giving me time to get my life together? And her apartment is small, and they are needing space for the baby. Ah. What? I told her she must be mistaken, as the house is mine, inherited from my grandmother, but asked her what else Joe had told her about me at our marriage. And lie after lie, Joe's lies, that is, tumbled out of her mouth, along with crumbs of the real story. These gems include, well, it was true that she and Joe met at work, but it was about a year ago when they were both interviewing for the executive training program they are now in. Amy said, though, that they first became friends before getting together romantically. Apparently, Joe told her that he was legally married but that we had been separated in spirit and living separate lives since 2020. He said he didn't want to kick me out and make me homeless during the pandemic because I didn't make much money and we live in a high cost of living area. Joe told Amy that we met in our early 20s when he was mentoring me in a GED prep program. That I was a high school dropout who was struggling with addiction and, essentially, that he rescued me. He helped me get clean, tutored me for my GED, and had been supporting me since, as I gradually worked on college classes. He told Amy I was working on prepping for an IT career, was currently making $45,000 as a help desk technician, and that he wanted to make sure I could at least afford a studio apartment. He also told Amy that we had separated because I had relapsed and he couldn't have a meaningful relationship with a drug addict. Ah. All this is lies. My entire history of drug use is occasionally sharing a joint in college, maybe 4 or 5 times total, never anything harder. It is true that Amy was a 24-year-old virgin prodigy. She seemed dismayed that Joe had told me that, though, at least the virgin part. She said it wasn't a moral issue. She really was just focused on school and work and didn't make time to date. And that, generally, guys her age seemed mostly interested in casual hookups, especially the younger finance bro types. She wasn't interested in that, but Joe took the time to get to know her and was actually interested in a meaningful relationship. I asked her if the pregnancy was planned. She said no, of course not, but it was a miracle because Joe had a vasectomy, so they took that as a sign that they should keep the baby. Ah. No, Joe did not have a vasectomy. As we were planning to be a child-free couple, I suggested it a couple of times over the years. He firmly stated he didn't want to alter his body like that, so he left birth control as my responsibility. So, it really does seem that Amy is pretty blameless here. I mean, those of us who have been around the block would likely know not to believe a guy who claims to be separated but is still legally married and living with his wife. But without her having any dating or relationship experience, I can see where she would have taken him at his word about everything. After all, I didn't know anything was amiss with Joe until a couple of months ago, and I was married to him. Of course, Amy didn't want to believe me, and I don't blame her for that either. After all, she's been in a relationship with Joe for close to a year and is over 7 months pregnant with his baby, who is coming soon, ready or not. I couldn't immediately refute everything she said, but I showed her a couple of things. First, a picture of me in my late teens with my grandmother in front of my house, and also my LinkedIn profile, which shows my current job and education. I told her to do what she wanted with the info, to please stay safe and take care of herself, and then said my goodbyes. Yes, it was all very odd, unexpected, and surreal. Sorry this is so long, but I figured those following my tale would be interested in this turn. I am not sure if I will update again. Maybe in a year or so, when I have truly processed everything with lots of therapy and am hopefully on to living my best life. As for Joe and Amy, it's up to them to find whatever their path is. I do hope she wises up and leaves him, but I'm sadly not confident about that. I'm sure he will be able to spin all this in his favor because that's what he does. But I also can't make it my problem anymore. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Okay, but can we talk about the literal audacity she had to ask you to move out? Regardless of whether or not she thought he owned the house, the fact that she felt comfortable enough asking you to meet her and basically telling you to move out of your home is wild. It's literally none of her business. Wow. Just. Wow. I've been following your story since the first post, and I swear this has been a roller coaster. Hope you're doing well, Op. You deserve all the good things in life. Op's response. Apparently, he told her I was supposed to be out by the end of July but was dragging my feet. So she thought, on her own, to take the initiative and offer me money as an incentive to leave soon. Commenter 2. Holy crap, I hope you informed her that no, he has not had a vasectomy, so that was not a miracle. Poor girl. I almost feel bad for how much Joe lied to her and you. Wow, I feel as though you were lucky to find all this out and be strong enough to leave him. Op's response. Yes, I definitely informed her. She didn't believe me. She said he definitely did have one, he just didn't inform me because he didn't want to bring children into the world with a drug-addicted mom but didn't want to upset me about it. Fifth update 3 months later. Hi everyone. I know quite a few people have been reaching out for more news, but I wanted to wait until my divorce was finalized to avoid risking any complications. I also thought it best to let things settle for a bit. The good news is, I'm now divorced. The final decree came through a few weeks ago. It actually all went very smoothly. I am eternally grateful to live in a mutual consent divorce state that allows divorcing couples to proceed quickly if they can come to an agreement on finances and property. On the Joe and Amy front, after my last post, all was quiet for a couple of weeks. Then Amy, her due date quickly approaching, reached out again to ask if I'd given any more thought to her offer to pay me $17,000 to vacate the house quickly so that she and Joe could move in. Again, this is the house I inherited and own free and clear, but Joe told her he owns it and that he was just giving me time to get my finances together before evicting me. At this point, I decided to package up a lot more evidence of Joe's lies to send to Amy. I sent her a copy of the deed and property tax records showing the house is in my name only. I sent her copies of my diplomas to prove I am not a high school dropout. I sent her some information on various professional associations I am involved in and awards I have won to show I actually do have a senior level job and am not underemployed, as well as proof of my income. I sent her copies of all my drug test results for the past 5 years. I have a drug-free workplace and have to test 2 or 3 times a year, to show I am not an addict. I sent her time-stamped photos and text exchanges to show that Joe was still having a romantic relationship with me until July this year. Nothing salacious, just photos of us showing G-rated affection and exchanging loving words over text. I even found a text exchange from a couple of years ago when we last discussed him potentially getting a vasectomy, with his final decision not to proceed with one. A couple of days later, she responded. She believed me. However, in the end, it didn't matter, as Joe convinced her he had lied for very good reasons. The way they both tell the story, they met at work and were incredibly drawn to each other, in a way that felt inevitable. However, due to Joe being married, he felt that if Amy knew he was, to that point, happily married, she would either turn away from him and miss out on the love of a lifetime, or she would go ahead with an affair but be consumed with guilt. So, to avoid either of these outcomes, and especially to save Amy from guilt, Joe decided to create an alternative narrative in which he was in a marriage that had ended for all intents and purposes years ago, in all ways but legally, because I was an uneducated addict who kept relapsing and couldn't get my life together. That way, she could essentially believe he was single. How noble of Joe, to bear all the guilt alone. Unfortunately, Amy said she understood and forgave him immediately. With a baby due any day, I suppose I can sort of understand the desire to justify the lies, even though the reality is horrifying. I suppose it's also not my problem anymore. Amy did have her baby over a month ago, and I guess she and Joe will make whatever life together, or not, is meant to be. As for me, I'm doing very well. I actually got a big promotion at work. Not managing people, which I don't want to do, but I will be working on higher profile projects, with a 40% raise. That starts after the new year. The house is really big for just me, so I have a couple of roommates now. A friend who is also going through a divorce moved in, as well as a younger cousin, mid-20s, who moved to the city for work. We're all having a lot of fun together. I'm not really ready to date yet. I'm still in therapy processing all the marital fallout, but I'm getting there and looking forward to whatever new adventures life has to offer. This will probably be my last post, in this series anyway, as the saga of Joe and Amy, or at least my role in it, is finished. With us legally divorced and having no ongoing financial or other ties, the best thing I can do is leave them to their own story and get on with my Joe-free next phase. Thank you all for listening to my story for much of 2023. I truly appreciate the support and helpful advice I received along the way. /relevant comments. Commenter. I'm happy for your update. However, Amy is still a fool, but unfortunately, she will not realize that until Joe cheats on her. Because cheat on her, he will. At some point, she will have to grow up, but it's not your problem anymore. I'm glad that your life is looking up, and I hope in the future you can actually meet a good person and not a scumbag like Joe. Ops response. Yes, I tried to warn Amy and even provided her with evidence that he would just lie and lie for his own convenience, but if she's chosen to stay with him to try to make a happy family, well, that's gonna be on her. Especially as she also has her own fancy degrees and a high income of her own. It's not like she's trapped by circumstances. Anyway, time to leave them to their own devices and refocus on my own life. Commenter 2. Her offer to pay me $17,000 to vacate the house quickly so that she and Joe could move in. $17,000 for a paid-off house, almost anywhere, is insulting. Ops response. I'm in a high cost of living area, and the house, 5+ bedrooms, beautifully restored Victorian style, is now worth in the low seven figures. $17,000 is the maximum one can give as a gift in 2023 without a tax penalty. Joe told Amy that he owned the house, not me, and that he was just letting me stay there until I got my life together, but I was dragging my feet. So Amy thought she was offering a gift that would let me pay for a deposit and moving expenses for a small apartment of my own. She didn't realize, or didn't believe, that I was actually the owner of the house, not Joe. Commenter 3. I used to feel sorry for Amy, being so socially immature as to fall for Joe, but now I feel like she is getting what she deserves. Imagine forgiving all of those lies, including the vasectomy lie. At what point does someone, allegedly intelligent, stop all the nonsense? Bah. It's only a matter of time before he moves on, if he hasn't already. I wonder how long it will take him to convince her to be a stay-at-home mom. Ops response. To put myself in her shoes, I'm not sure how I'd feel if I were dealing with all the aches and pains and hormonal issues of being 9 months pregnant, only to receive damning information about my partner and baby's father, as well as an easy out to justify the lies. I think it will be more telling to see if they are still together in another year or two, once the realities of parenthood set in for both of them.